This is Middle East Brief with Avi Kaner, your daily intelligence update on what actually matters.
Today, Israel's Knesset took an important step, but I believe it took the wrong one. Lawmakers approved, in its first reading, legislation to establish a politically appointed commission to investigate the failures surrounding October 7. I respectfully disagree, because there is one principle every democracy should embrace. A government cannot investigate itself. October 7 was not simply another terrorist attack. It was the deadliest day in Israel's history. At 6:29 a.m. in the morning, Hamas launched 4,300 rockets toward Israeli cities and towns. At the same time, 6,000 Hamas terrorists breached Israel's border by land, sea, and air. They attacked more than 20 Israeli civilian communities, numerous military bases, and key junctions throughout southern Israel. Entire kibbutzim became battlefields. Police stations were overrun. Military outposts were captured. At the Nova Music Festival, young people had gathered to celebrate music, friendship, and life. Instead, they found themselves hunted. 378 people were murdered at that festival alone. Hundreds more were wounded. Dozens were dragged into Gaza as hostages. Entire families were massacred inside their homes. Children were murdered. Parents were murdered in front of their children. Grandparents were executed. By the end of the day, 1,195 people had been murdered in cold blood. 251 people, including children, were taken hostage into Gaza. It was the largest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. And since that terrible morning on October 7, more than 960 Israeli soldiers have given their lives defending their country. Every one of those families deserves answers. The families of the murdered deserve answers. The hostages deserve answers. The soldiers still serving deserve answers. And future generations deserve the confidence that every possible lesson has been learned. To understand why an independent commission is so important, we also need to remember what Israel looked like before October 7. The country was deeply divided. Week after week, hundreds of thousands of Israelis filled the streets over the government's proposed judicial reforms. It became one of the largest protest movements in Israel's history. Political debate became increasingly toxic. The coalition and the opposition often treated one another as enemies rather than political rivals. Reservists publicly threatened to suspend voluntary service. Former military leaders warned that national cohesion was weakening. Confidence in public institutions was declining. At precisely the moment Israel needed unity, it was instead consumed by internal division. Israel's enemies noticed. Hamas noticed. Hezbollah noticed. The Iranian regime noticed. Today we know that Hamas spent years preparing for October 7, building tunnels, manufacturing weapons, training thousands of terrorists, conducting full-scale rehearsals, gathering intelligence, studying Israeli routines, testing border defenses. Yet somehow, Israel failed to appreciate the scale of the threat. We now know there were warning signs. Surveillance soldiers repeatedly reported unusual Hamas activity along the border. Intelligence assessments continued to conclude that Hamas was deterred, that it preferred governing Gaza to launching a full-scale invasion. Were those assumptions wrong? Were critical warnings dismissed? Did intelligence agencies adequately communicate with one another? Did bureaucratic silos prevent the full picture from emerging? Did political turmoil distract attention from growing security threats? These are not accusations, they are questions. Questions that deserve independent answers. Because no government, whether on the left or the right, should investigate its own failures. History teaches us why. After the September 11 attacks, the United States established the bipartisan 9/11 Commission. It interviewed more than 1,000 witnesses. It reviewed millions of documents. It held public hearings. Its purpose was not political revenge. Its purpose was to ensure that those failures never happened again. The United Kingdom established a Chilcot inquiry. Canada established the Air India inquiry. Australia has repeatedly used royal commissions to investigate major national failures. Israel has done the same. After the Yom Kippur War came their Agranat Commission. After the Sabra and Shatila massacre came the Kahan Commission. After the Second Lebanon War came the Winograd Commission. Those investigations were uncomfortable. They criticized governments. They criticized military commanders. They criticized intelligence agencies. But they strengthened Israeli democracy because they demonstrated that no one stood above scrutiny. October 7 deserves nothing less. Waiting also has consequences. Nearly 3 years have already passed. Every month that goes by makes it harder to establish the complete truth. Memories fade, officials retire, documents become harder to reconstruct. Evidence becomes more difficult to verify. Justice delayed is often truth diminished. The questions remain enormous. How did Hamas prepare for years without Israel fully understanding what was coming? Why were repeated warnings not acted upon? Why were communities left undefended for so many hours? Why were reinforcements so slow to arrive? Were intelligence agencies sharing information effectively? Did assumptions replace critical analysis? Did political divisions contribute, directly or indirectly, to the failure? Most importantly, what must change before Israel faces its next war? These questions belong to every Israeli, not just supporters of one political party or the other. Today's coalition will one day become tomorrow's opposition. Tomorrow's opposition will become one day the next government. Every government should be held to exactly the same standard. The Commission's loyalty should never be to politicians. Its loyalty should be to the truth. October 7 changed Israel forever. It also began a war that has already claimed the lives of more than 960 Israeli soldiers. Their sacrifice demands more than remembrance. It demands accountability. It demands the truth. History will judge not only how Israel responded on October 7, it will judge whether Israel had the courage to honestly investigate why it happened. Strong democracies are not defined by never making mistakes. They are defined by confronting those mistakes openly. Israel is one of the world's strongest democracies. Now it must prove it once again. With a truly independent commission of inquiry, not to weaken Israel, but to strengthen it. Because the greatest tribute we can pay to the 1,195 innocent people murdered on October 7, to the 251 who were taken hostage, and to the more than 960 Israeli soldiers who have fallen since, is to ensure that such a failure never happens again.
This is Middle East Brief with Avi Kaner. If you want clarity, not noise, follow and share. Continue the conversation on X at Avi Kaner. Back tomorrow